Okay, welcome back to Axis and Allies, the basics. This is video 3 in that series, and in this video we will be going over combat, non-combat moves, and more of the interface. But before we do that, I'm going to ask you to like, share, subscribe, and do all those wonderful things you do that support this channel. And please let me know what you think about this video series, and if there's anything I've left out, if there's anything you'd like me to go over, or anything you've come across in your games that I have not explained in these videos. So Axis and Allies, the basics, video 3. Thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoy. Welcome back to Axis and Allies, the basics. This is part 3. In our last video, we went over some of the interface nuances and the combat move phase and got a little into the combat phase. We're going to finish up combat phase and move on to non-combat phase. But first, let's go over some more of the menus that are available. So in the top left corner here, this is your in-game menu. You can see the name of the game, starting conditions, victory conditions, and dice mode. You pull up any notifications here. You can dismiss them with this little garbage can there. Delete game. Well, this is a single-player game. If I was playing a multiplayer game, this would be the forfeit. It's in red. It has the caution signs. It was not always like that. I think people probably complained that it was too easy to accidentally forfeit your games. They added in a setting where if you click this, instead of just this failsafe, you would get a window that requires you to actually type in forfeit game. I've had that turned off in this window where you pull up the settings. These are your account settings. These are all subjective to your own profile. With this slider, you can turn on and off email notifications. Email notifications are important in ranked matches because they notify you when it is your turn and when you only have a few hours left to be kicked from a game. You can of course pick your language. This will delete all the information from your profile, so you probably don't want to click that under normal circumstances. This information is, of course, email, commander name. These are all your audio setting. They're all very self-explanatory, and they're all subjective to however you want to have your settings. Same with graphical settings. They're all self-explanatory and all subjective to however you want to have your game set. These settings here have to do with how well your machine can handle Axis and Allies 1942 Online. They have a colorblind setting, which I actually am very colorblind, but I find it very distracting. Perhaps if I used these and got used to them, I would find them more useful, but I would never record videos like this. Actually, Mannix just recorded a video where he played with this setting, and it was interesting to see, but I just find it kind of distracting. I will say that there have been times where I have mistook British territory for Japanese territory, and it has caused me to make decisions that I would not have made. Judging by the type of colorblindness I have, this would probably be my best option. But I find it a little odd. As someone who is colorblind, I appreciate that they gave me the option, so Beamdog, thank you. And cinematic arrows, you can have the arrows be larger or smaller. I have it set on the larger arrows. I think that's how most people play, with the larger arrows, but if you find that sometimes after your combat or non-combat move you just see a mesh of spaghetti, this might help out by making the arrows smaller. And the dice effects. They have extra animations with the dice if you wish. Input, well, these are all your different key bindings for your mouse and your keyboard. Unit drag drop. You can, with the left mouse key, drag units in combat move, non-combat move, and mobilization if you wish. And map movement speed, this is just the speed that the map will scroll. These are all different settings for AI if you're ever playing just single player against the AI. A note about the AI is that if you don't know how to play the game, you can learn fundamentals of how to actually play a game of Axis and Allies against the AI, but its skill level is not very high at all. It is just not a very good challenge. Axis and Allies 1942 Online is really geared for multiplayer default turn expiry. This just means that when you create a custom game, it will at default give your opponent a 24-hour clock, though kicking an opponent in a custom game is discretionary, so it might not matter that much. This is the forfeit confirmation I was talking about. I have it set where I do not have to type in forfeit game on my ranked matches, but if I were to click this slider over, it would change that condition. I like to just be able to click and you get a failsafe window and you click again. I think that's enough for me, especially with the red outline and the caution signs. Hover tooltips, this means that you will a small detail window over territories, units, menu, tabs, all of that will just give you a description of what they are if you hover your cursor over. Learn more tips, provide contextual links to relevant learn to play information. Assign hits from defense profile. This is relevant in combat, and we will go over that shortly. Fast dice, I like it set that way. I don't like to sit there and watch fake dice rolling, but you can set it however you wish. This is all subjective. And combat tool tips. These are just things that pop up when there's a special condition in a combat, anti-aircraft, offshore bombardment, and surprise strike. So if you find them annoying, these can be turned off. Sometimes they are annoying, but I also like to have them on. I don't know, it's just my preference. And these are your defense profiles. You could set them so that when you start a game, this will be your default, which can be important for, you see, with Germany, I like bomber first because the Soviet Union typically attacks Ukraine looking to take out your bomber. And I want to get rid of that bomber first because that battle is lost probably 4 out of every 5 times. So that's the way I like to have that set. And you can get your defense profiles here as well. There's another separate tab for it. Return to main menu and exit to desktop are both self-explanatory, and you exit out with the X in the right hand corner. Next to it tells you what round it is. Next to that tells you whose turn it is. It also will tell you if your opponent is online or offline. In multiplayer games, it tells you what phase the current turn is on, and there is a meter for how many victory cities each faction has, and these menus we went over. This button down here is always what you use to continue on in your turn. Okay, so I set up a general combat. 7 infantry, 2 artilleries, and 1 tank versus 3 infantry, 1 artillery, and a tank. So this slider down here changes the dice animations like we saw before in the graphical settings. With this turned off, the dice look like this. To start combat, you click Start Combat, and you will roll. And I got a pitiful 1 hit. You continue, and you have to let the defender roll now. He as well got 1 hit. So now, I can left click the unit that I want. I can right click to take it away. I could also hit this button here. Click on a unit to assign hits manually. This is from your defense profile, which you can look at right here, but you cannot change. And then this will pop up. You can either retreat or you can press on. We're going to press on. Now I turned the dice animations on, and that's what it looks like. And just like all these settings are subjective, I just like to play with that turned off. So as you can see, I got 3 hits. They got no hits. So if I click this, I can view the battle board now and make decisions. Do I want to continue or do I want to retreat? And to further help my decision making, up in the right hand corner, now we can look at the map and see what the situation is externally. Return to combat, we use the end phase button. It'll bring us right back, and I'm going to decide to retreat. In order to retreat, left click the region you want to retreat to, hold down end phase. Okay, let's set up a naval battle. Submarine, cruiser. With this fighter can go 1, 2, and then would be able to go 1, 2 and get back. This fighter can go 1, 2, 3, 4, but it's allowed to make it. And why is that? Because theoretically, this aircraft carrier could end up in Sea Zone 53. Bring this bomber, 1, 2, 3, 4. The bomber will have 2 fuel remaining. First we have to do the sneaky subs. He misses. I miss. I whiff on everything. He gets 2 hits back. Let's see. Bomber. No, I don't want to lose the bomber. We'll lose the cruiser and the submarine here. We'll continue. And let's retreat. So now I have 2 fighters here, and one of them can't land. I have no choice. There are enemy units here, so I can't bring in my aircraft carrier. So I can only land this one fighter, and the other fighter has to be abandoned. So that fighter is just lost. It did not have a landing point at the end of combat. Remember, its landing point needs to be theoretical in order to be able to participate in the combat. So another little combat here. 1 hit. 1 hit. So now down here in the right corner is your roll log, where you can go over your entire battle and each roll for each unit round for round. So if you ever need that information, you can get that right down here. Alright, so non-combat moves. So when you're in non-combat moves, it's the same as combat moves, except everywhere that you can position your selected unit is this bluish color instead of the red. Just left click, right click, shift key, control key, it's all the same. Deselect, control key for one at a time, shift and right key for cancel, shift key for all units, or use the in-game mechanism. Transports, you can pick up and drop off anti-aircraft guns on your non-combat move to any friendly territory. You can pick up anti-aircraft on combat, but you cannot unload them until non-combat. So just keep that in mind. Aircraft carriers move, and now this fighter is left with no landing point, so you need to select one. You can either land on land or the sea zone that has the aircraft carrier in it. Aircraft carriers can carry up to 2 fighters, though it's easier if you don't think about the fighters being attached to the aircraft carrier. The aircraft carrier being in Sea Zone 55 makes Sea Zone 55 a landable point up to 2 fighters. Okay, so here's another combat in West Russia, where I'm doing poorly, apparently. Let's see if it turns around. That's a little better. Still, pretty good hitbacks. But anyway, the point being, so I've just captured West Russia. However, I cannot land fighters in West Russia. West Russia has just been taken this turn. You can only land aircraft in territory that you have controlled or your allies have controlled since the beginning of your turn. You can never land aircraft in a territory that was just taken. And of course, tanks moving 2 can blitz right through. Okay, so tank blitz. Of course, a tank can go from here in Bulgaria and reach West Russia or Caucasus in combat move. But here we can go into West Russia and then we can non-combat before we're in the non-combat phase back into friendly territory, and this territory will become German. We cannot, however, go into Karelia and blitz because there is an industrial complex here, and that blocks our blitz just the same way as any other unit would. So I think we have covered combat and non-combat move, so we will pick it up from there in our next video. Thank you for joining us.
So thank you for joining us for another edition of Axis and Allies Basics. Please join us for our next video, where we will go over the remaining phases, some more of the interface, and we'll start going over the units in practical application and going over basic tactics. Please like, share, subscribe, do everything that you do that makes content like this possible. And as always, thank you for watching.